Hi, this is Mariah Gullo for Billboard, and I'm in studio with Emily Haines today.
What up?
Emily, how are you?
I'm good, really good. Good to
Thank
talk
you
to you
so much for taking some time out. I know that you're in studio recording with Metric right
Mm-hmm.
now. So what is going on with you guys? You're in LA. You're recording. You're working on a new album?
Yeah, we're working with Justin Meldal Johnson, and
Amazing.
excited to work at East West. We're about halfway through. It's always hard to say with a record, but yeah, it's been a beautiful process so far. It's really fun.
And we're here to talk about your solo album,
Yeah.
Choir of the Mind. This is your first solo album in 10 years?
Yeah, a little over even. Yeah, it's like the decade marker and beyond. Yeah, it's a trip.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
I have a couple of songs I want to talk to you about specifically.
Cool.
But first, I just wanted to hear like the backstory of how this album came to be, because you were touring with Metric for a few years.
Yeah, it's funny. Like it's a common thread of conversation is like, how does the creative process work in balance with touring? But I really feel like my life is cyclical, and so for example, with Choir of the Mind, it felt like more to do with reconnecting with Knives, which is the record I made in LA in 2006, or started, came out in 2006. But I'm kind of somebody who's always writing. And there's always a backlog of stuff and a kind of constant works in progress. So it's kind of like I never really shut off that part of my brain. And then when it comes to getting things on tape and organizing the ideas and finding a through line and cohesion, then it's like you need to be in one spot and get that done. So that's what happened with Choir, is I was, as usual, just kind of always writing, and then got a window where I could record at Giant in our studio in Toronto, and just actually lay it all out.
Right.
But I'm kind of always carrying fragments of ideas around since forever. Like I have stuff I worked on as a kid that I'm still like, I'm gonna get that line, into some verse like somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. And then the time that you really were able to kind of shape the album, that was around this time last year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was pretty much now last year. Yeah.
And what is there a certain feeling that you got last year that kind of propelled you into writing this album? I mean, I've talked to a lot of female songwriters, and there's been like some sort of a psychic shift in the past year, what with kind of the world events, the elections that are happening.
Yeah.
A lot of them feel compelled to write about how they're feeling based on, what's been going on in the world for women in particular.
Huh, that's cool. Yeah. I mean, for me, I feel like is probably always absorbing what's happening in the world is part of being an artist, and why you have to make sure you don't go nuts. But it was more like me taking stock of this, as I was saying, like this kind of orbit of coming back and looking at what the last decade has looked at and looked like, and just having this window appear of time where I could do this work and not interfere with the sort of ongoing engine that is Metric. Like it's a train that doesn't really stop. So, but you're absolutely right. Like as we've seen, the world is in a kind of precarious, and it's just every day is pretty challenging to absorb what's happening and try not to normalize it, but also, function. And for me in those times, I definitely work. That's like how I deal. So you're right. And I'm glad to hear that you've been talking to lots of women who are making music, because things are so crass. And I think that's when people really feel that they need the nuance of art and music to express things that that's not how we are as human beings. We're capable of more. We have greater faculty than just crass and, visceral.
Yeah.
So
I feel like now more than ever, female artists have something to say, or are trying to kind of define a new voice. It doesn't involve like kind of just mimicking, how what's considered a powerful voice or powerful music for men, but like here's my own take.
Interesting.
And
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I've been on this whole tip of like, I'm sick of reacting. Like I don't, and a lot of the thread on this record has been sort of looking at what femininity is, not only as a woman, but also looking on the whole spectrum of gender as people explore like where they fall within that, and what our assumptions and associations and ways that we characterize femininity and weakness, and our fear of power as women, and people's fear female power, like all of those things are interconnected. And as I evolve as a person, you know, is like, I'm not interested in reacting against as my position in life as a writer, as a friend, or someone living in the world. Like, that's a trap. So especially since there's so many men who are allied with the exact same principles that my female friends and I share, like, there's no disconnect between me and the guys in Metric or my brother or the men in my life. We're all on the same side, seeing the same world.
Yeah, you're all in this together.
Yeah, for sure. So it's like, I think a lot of the problems that we see in that political polarization is that we just are having conversations framed for us. So that before we've even said anything, it's like, well, you're in that corner and you're in that corner. Right. And then what are we ever going to say, you know, that's new? And how are we ever going to think about it differently if they're like, you can talk about this, but you have to talk about it like this, you know? So I'm into reframing the conversation and not being forced to react all the time. It's true.
Your new album, it's very minimal.
Yeah.
You work a lot on vocals and layering of vocals. But when the instrumentals come in, they're very powerful because there's long stretches of time where it's just about the vocals, and then like something will come in. What made you decide to like go down that route?
Yeah, it happened kind of organically, where, you know, I've done a lot of work in my life as a musician, and normally when I hear certain melodies, counter melodies, arrangements, my mind instantly goes to the instrument that should play that. And in this case, I just had this moment, I was in the booth and it was like, I'm just gonna sing it. And then it just opened up this whole spectrum of possibility of being able to achieve different tones and different colors in my voice that aren't associated with my identity as like the singer, but more just the sound of a person and the sound of the emotion, you know? And then similarly with rhythmic stuff, I started doing, I've always explored with like breathing, but it was ridiculous. Like I was doing like rhythms that were just, it was like it's on my chest, or it's just breathing, or, you know, the most rudimentary sort of tribal approach to what rhythm feels like. So it was all kind of part of the same thing. Yeah.
I think you mentioned the idea that that some of the vocals are like a panic attack with a lullaby on top of them.
Deep breath.
Cool. There's a lot of anxiety in the lyrics.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what I felt too, is like, I don't know, I feel like we're all just sort of trying to constantly produce and constantly consume. It's actually like grotesque kind of sense of gluttony in a way, and that like everything that's created, it's like content, and we just have to like consume mentally and physically constantly. And I was hoping that I could make something that would exist sort of in another place, that would be a breath and a kind of a respite. And perhaps that's what led me to the using the breathing, and that it could just be like, okay, I'm going to put on this record and have a different experience and close my eyes and just stop for a second.
I wanted to talk to you about Nihilist Abyss, because that's my favorite
Oh,
song.
good. I'm so happy when people say that's their favorite.
I love it.
I hope you don't mind my hood came down. Is my mystique ruined? You're like, whoa, you're completely different.
Who are you? For Nihilist Abyss, I'll just tell you what it reminded me of personally.
Please.
The week that David Bowie died, there was dance parties all over LA. And I went there, and it was just like so sad, but it was also like so freeing to know that like everybody was sad this weekend. Everybody was dancing David Bowie, and it just like, I don't know, it was like this moment of like nihilism, like just existential dread.
Yeah.
But it was like a good feeling to like just release all that. Like tell me about how you wrote that song.
Yeah, that was like just a really dark time. I mean, this is the thing, is the stuff that when I delve into the darker places, that my sort of policy is that I'm not going to release that music unless I feel as though I've brought it up to the light, you know, like I'm not asking anyone to like come down into the depths and just feel terrible with me. It's not really the idea. So I try to, when I hit those places, I try to like push past my own resistance to the truth about whatever it is, and keep writing and keep working in that place, and then, you know, bring to the surface something really honest that ideally will illuminate, as you're describing, like that connection that we all have. It's not about me having any kind of special pain. I'm actually on a complete like anti-specialness campaign right now. I think it's a really like flawed way of honoring people. I think that we're completely missing the point when we're like, you're special. It's like, that sounds horrible. I have no desire to be like alone and special. I think it's more about the universality, right? Like that the thing that's most personal to you and hardest to accept and articulate will be the thing that's the most true for everyone on a universal level. Like that's what I found. Like the lower I go, the more I find that commonality. So, but yeah, I mean, the you in that song of the like, when I walk alone, I'm walking with you. You know, when I sleep alone, I'm sleeping with you. When I drink alone, I'm drinking with you. That you has taken so many different forms. Like sometimes it's like the horrible voice, you know, the choir of the mind that's just like, good morning, you suck. Like you'll never accomplish anything. Everyone hates you. Go get him, girl. You know, like sometimes that's the you that I'm like, yep, there you are. And other times it's loves, you know, like romantic loves, friendships, addictions. That you can really, it's a multi-purpose you. But I actually thought I might attempt to play that song today. We'll see.
Ooh.
But I'm glad that it resonated with you, because I was worried that, you know, not worried, but my concern and my care is that, like I said, it's not like, whoa, dude, like that's just really depressing. I don't see any value in that. You know, I don't want to be like, I want to be depressed. It's not, we need to be energized in those darkest places, like a Bowie dance party.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel better when you feel that commonality of being connected? Like, do you feel like, because obviously like for your whole career, you've probably been told that you're wonderful and talented and,
not at all.
You know, no,
not at all.
No.
Opposite. The world was not asking for me or a metric.
Yeah.
No, there's absolutely, and I know it's hard, you know, somebody who's watching this interview and maybe isn't familiar with the work that we've put in. It's like, it's 20 years of just trying to get the job, you know, and the support of every single person who heard our music and said like, I believe that. I see that you're genuine and that you're not imitating something, and this isn't like a consumer construct. This is actually real. Yeah. And, you know, then you achieve these certain things and you seem like a normal person doing an interview with Billboard. But I haven't had that at all, really. And I think people need to realize that, like, for themselves too, in their own process. It's not about being an artist. It's just as a human being. It's like, if you're doing something real, you're going to get kicked in the head. You just have to, you know, like, realize people aren't going to understand and it doesn't matter. And just you know, because there's only one you, luckily. Yeah. So it makes the world cool.
What does it take to be an independent artist?
A lot of emailing. It's horrible. It's a lot of admin. But, you know, it is. It's like not sexy. But I wouldn't trade it because, you know, Jimmy and I, so many years ago, made that decision of realizing you have a couple choices with the way that your career can go, and the horror stories you see of people being like, what? Like, nobody paid my taxes for 500 years? Or like those horrible, you know, dream world that you're sort of invited to live in, and then you spend the rest of your life, we have an expression in the band, like doing detective work on your own life, like trying to figure out like, what flight am I on, and like, where did that money go, and did that happen, and when is this happening? And we just made the decision that it would be way more work at the beginning and throughout, but that ideally we will benefit in the long run because we will know what happened, and we have no one to blame. It's our own work, it's our own decisions. And I'm not going to wake up one day and be like, what was going on, you know? So I really encourage people, like, if you've got the admin in you, it's super hard, but there's no substitute, you know? And there's this seductiveness to like being blown up and, you know, your face on the side of a bus. But the people with the real power, their faces are not on the side of the bus. They're like pulling the strings, you know? So it's just to evaluate that, especially for women, you know, It's like exposure is such a sell, and I never saw it that way. Like, well, it'll be great exposure. It's like, that's not, I don't know, like, I don't know if that's not so appealing to me. I feel like it's kind of like minimize your exposure, your risk, while staying in the work as much as possible, you know?
Right. Do you feel like your fan base, you have like a stronger connection to them because you are an independent artist?
Maybe, right? It's hard to say. Because I also I just kind of think of everyone as an individual person. And I also really respect that, like, over the last few years, there was a broader audience came on board with us, and we kind of, like, we're not snobby about it, you know? Not into the, like, tribal, like, niche thing with music. Like, it's kind of like my anti-specialness campaign. I just, like, I want to live in the world. Like, let's all live in the world and have the world be better and not retreat to our little clubs of coolness. Like, so, you know, I've met over the years people that I don't know that we would have ever crossed paths, but like through big radio stations or weird things that aren't really our scene, meeting and finding people who really connect with the music. That so I don't know. I think that they can tell that every single step is earned, and like there's no like fake money. Like, we don't have like some imaginary fund. It's like everything is directly correlated to the work that we do. It's like, it's every time we go back in, it's a huge gamble. Like, us to work at East West with a massive producer like this, that's, independent artists don't really get to do that. So it's cool.
Did you pick up a little bit of this philosophy from working with Lou Reed and Laurie Anderson?
Oh God, they're just like the best people. Laurie Anderson, you seen Heart of a Dog?
Yeah.
I don't even know, like, they're sort of my dream parents, and the fact that I got to be part of, especially the work I did with them in Australia at Sydney Opera House, that was, I mean, Laurie's work there was just beyond her as a performance artist, as a visual artist. Everything that she does is just, but I think it's more like a shared ethos. Like, it was a really great piece that she spoke at one concert that I did with them, and Laurie was saying that both of them had a really great, radar for BS, and so I took that as a great honor that Lou would be like, I like you, Haines,
right.
You know, and approach me as a songwriter, you know, and just treat me like somebody in his corner who was also not lying. So yeah, it was super validating. I don't know, what are we going to do if all these people just die? We're going to be like, there was this other world, guys. Like,
this world that existed before
smartphones. The world before, which is funny because I was thinking, like, that's right. I finished my solo record, and then it's like that record, Knives, was made before the iPhone. Like, that really is, you know, we can say like the internet, like whatever, but when you look at it, that was it.
Yeah.
It's when we all were like, what?
Yeah.
And then we just haven't looked up since.
Oh God, that's a good
the world
quote.
before.
So you're going on tour for the rest of the year?
Well, actually, we're in the studio here, and then we're back in Toronto for a bit at our studio. It's been really cool doing both places. It's a really nice, Toronto, Los Angeles is kind of a great combination creatively, and the band kind of got our start here at the Silver Lake Lounge, so it's super meaningful for us to come back. But my solo tour starts the 28th of November and runs, it's just a short run to the middle of December, ending in LA.
Yes.
Super excited.
At the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, the Masonic Lodge.
Best.
Amazing.
I know, 2 shows. I think it's 2 shows in one day. And that we put so much love and effort into finding the venues. Like, the whole tour, when I look at it in photos, is just so exciting. It's like beautiful theaters, you know, again, like theaters that are left. A lot of these things are disappearing. So really excited to do it. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful run.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. Pure art, Haines. Man. Art for art's sake.
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah.
Emily Haines, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Choir of the Mind, check it out. Bye.